Happy Saturday, everybody. Welcome back to Crafting a Country Life. And I wanted to jump on quickly this morning and share something that I created for Saturday Morning Makes, which is hosted by Jill Norwood. My project for this week is a small little pamphlet that I created using an old pattern that I stumbled across up in my attic. And I knew that it wasn't something that I was ever going to use again. So I thought, well, I think I'll just use the tissue from this and create, and this is really old. This is $1.25, and I probably bought this when I was in high school. I did a lot of sewing when I was a young girl. I learned how to sew from my mother years ago. And anyway, this is the pattern that I used for the little card, but I wanted to show this to you. And then I'll show you the materials that I used to create it. So here's the front. My camera may not be focusing all that well again. Here's the front, and I did some stamping and embossing, and then I just tore this out and did some distressing on it. And I used the pattern tissue to create this card. So it opens like this. And then on the first page here, you can see I did a little bit of fussy cutting with some cardstock, and I used an old book page that I had distressed with Vintage Photo, Distress Oxides by Tim Holtz, and then just some little old lace trim and a little bit of gingham that I had in my stash. And then underneath that, I put this little banner. It says Happy Little Moments. And then there's another little strip over here of some cardstock. I'm going to show you the paper pads that I used for these in just a moment. And the second page here has an organza mesh overlay that I zigzag cut with my scalloping pinking shears. A little bit of Vintage Photo distressed rickrack. I mean, I did try the pink rickrack on there without distressing it, and it just was a little bit too bright. So I punched it down with the Distress Oxide, and that just kind of gave it a softer look. And then underneath the overlay is a tiny little scallop with some, cardstock cutouts and more organza in between, and the Vintage Sewing book page. And over here, again, Vintage Sewing book page, and then I've just got some scrapbook papers and a little envelope that I created using some enamel dots, stamping, and so on. And then the other side here has a ticket that I stitched down, and then I just used my Sharpie to write "So Happy." I added a little ribbon rose up here, some twine, and a little strip of buttons that I distressed, again with the ink. And then there's a little torn fabric strip underneath that. And here's the back. Left that kind of simple, but it says tatting. This is one of the pages, and then some of the, the words the terminology for tatting on that side of the page. So that's the back, and then again, here's the front. Just a little button up in the corner with some twine, some crochet twine, and this lovely little vintage girl. And then I layered up some scalloped or pinked edge fabric strips that I had in my stash and some lace. So it was really pretty simple to put together, although it took me a few minutes to, find the bits and bobs in my stash and, select them, audition them, choose the ones that I liked. It did take a little while, but pretty simple to make and fun to do. The booklet itself, or the card itself, is made out of about, I guess maybe 3 layers of pattern tissue that I layered, and then I stitched down where I wanted the folds to be, and then zigzagged around the edges to hold it securely with my sewing machine. So I thought that came out pretty well. I'm happy with it. And then what I used for materials to create this, first of all, the old pattern tissue from this old nightgown pattern, and some book pages that I had gotten out of this really big book. And I found this online at one of the thrift booksellers. Their shipping is very inexpensive. I think it was Thrift Books. It was either Thrift Books or Abe Books, ABEBOOKS.com. And again, reasonable prices on their old books, used books, and the shipping also is quite reasonable. So this will be used in lots more of my mid-century stitchery projects, I think, that I'm doing my mixed media with. And I just love the vintage images in this book. And there's lots of nice pages with text that all revolve around textiles, crocheting, knitting, tatting, embroidery, sewing, quilting. And they make great backgrounds for art journals and ephemera and all kinds of fun things. So I'm really enjoying using this old book. I just tear out the pages as I need them. Look at this old sewing room. Isn't this a hoot? Look at that. Looks like an old, could be a Singer, I don't know, some brand of an mid-century sewing machine. And then the gooseneck lamp, ironing boards, and they're calling this in a wall sewing room. So yeah, the images are lots of fun, just to flip through and take a look at. So I did use that, as the basis for the pages. And I find that it's very difficult to find mid-century paper crafting supplies unless you go with the digital. I know there's a lot of nice digital collections. I don't have a good printer for doing that just yet. And I imagine that once I do get myself a better color printer, I'll probably make use of some of the digital collections. But for now, I'm finding that I need to make most of my ephemera out of, old materials, old books and cards and, papers and so on. And since I love sewing and fabric themes, this old book is going to come in handy for helping me create some of those looks. Anyway, here's another paper pad that I used in this little card as well. This is older. This is a 6x6 Cartabella, and it's called Practically Perfect. And the pages have a real kind of mid-century feel to them. I love this pad. And I just kind of stumbled across it in my collection. I had forgotten that I had it. City Park. And the colors are really nice. They definitely have a 1940s and 1950s vibe to them. Lots of ditzy florals, polka dots, there's some butterflies. And these are old nursery rhyme images collaged together. Really pretty. Little birds, kites, a day in the park. So I used this little strip down here along the inside of the card right over here, and I distressed it. Let's see what I did here. This little piece here, this little bit. Put a little bit of the vintage photo on it and then added that into my card. So this is a really, really pretty pad. I don't know if it may be available on secondary seller sites, but I do love it. That's got some pretty vintage looks. And this one I've shared before. I got this from Frantic Stamper. It's Maja Designs Denim and Girls, and there's a lot of distressed soft pastel colors and fabric looks, textile looks in this pack. I love this. So I used that. And then this little one here, this little pad here, I created this little girl, this little scalloped girl ephemera bit here using this pad. And it has some sewing themed things in it, some fabric themes, as you can see from the cover. And then there's a sheet of pattern tissue and some lace and other old fabrics and such. And again, this is another old pad. I've probably had this for about 10 years. Isn't that pretty? Little ditzy floral. And the edges of the pad are actually distressed as well. Yeah, these are pretty. Oh, here's the pattern tissue in pink. And I think it also comes in like a creamy color as well. Here's a ledger page. More florals. It has kind of a Maggie Holmes look to it. It's a gingham. Here it is. Isn't that pretty? It's sort of an ochre yellow background. And stripes and so on. So this is also a very nice pad. It's called Pretty Party. Oh, it's by Crate Paper, one of their earlier publications. And then there's a little bit of this. I've shared this on a recent previous video as well. Perfect Moments. This is, I think it's still available at Joann's. And it does come not only in the 6x6, but the 12x12 pad as well. And these are craft brown colors, cream colors, pinks, ecru. It's a nice kind of vintage look to it. Love this pad. So I use that in there as well. And of course, my tub full of buttons. And I've inherited these from not only my mother, but my grandmother on my father's side over the years. Everybody would give me their old vintage buttons and laces and embroidery flosses, and I got them all, and I just can't bear to part with them. I'll never use all these, but I just enjoy kind of leafing through them. Look at these buttons all sewn onto a little bit of corrugated cardboard, and the pretty stitches that they use to attach them. Yeah, I think this was back in the day when waste not, want not, and probably during World War II. You know, people were very thrifty. They saved and held on to everything. Look at these beautiful mother of pearl buttons, all sewn onto a little piece of some kind of cardboard box to keep them safe. Oh, just amazing history in just one little tub full of buttons. Anyway, so that's the button collection. And you know, it's so much fun sifting through these to find the button that's just the right size or has just the right number of holes that you need for a project. That's half the fun, is I think just, you know, locating the things that you want to use to put together onto your projects. Here's one of the buttons that I chose. Yeah, really cute. I love that. So that's my project for this week's Saturday Morning Makes, and also a big shout out to Jill Norwood for hosting this. It really helps me a lot to be able to take a few minutes each weekend to just decompress from a busy day at work, busy week at work, and just do a little bit of creating. It kind of sets the tone for my weekend, helps me relax, and I enjoy it very, very much. Okay, so I think that's it for today, and I hope that you enjoyed watching, and hopefully we'll see you back again soon. Have a wonderful weekend. Take care. Bye for now.